and welcome to this video. In this video I talk about self-esteem and how to raise your self-esteem. And disclaimer, this video is really just what helped me, some things that really helped me, so maybe that it can help you too. But if you experience low self-esteem, you might want to consider professional help. We are a therapist. So what is self-esteem? For me, when I researched it, I came across the definition that self-esteem is the opinion that we have on ourselves, and I think it's like this very core belief that we have about ourselves, and it's so much deeper than kind of what we say. So for example, if you have that core belief that you're not good enough or that you are not smart enough, it will affect your life in very negative ways, because you will, for example, not go after a job that you really want to because you think that you're not good enough and you will fail anyways. Or if you think that you're not beautiful, you will maybe stay in relationship with men or women that treat you in a very unkind ways, because you think that you don't deserve any better anyway, or you can't find anyone else. Or if you think that and you have that core belief of you are a failure, then maybe if you lose your job, it will hit even more. So that's why having a healthy self-esteem is so important, because if we don't have that, and if we have a really low self-esteem, it can really hit us very hard, especially if we go through tough times such as losing a job or experience some sort of trauma or being in an unhealthy relationship. And so it's really important to improve our self-esteem. Also, some things that can happen if you have a bad self-esteem is that you, for example, try to cope with overworking yourself, so you become a workaholic because you feel so less and so not good enough by yourself. So you need that outer reflection and validation to kind of put yourself up, but it's not consistent. Like, that's for sure something that I tried to get, like, external validation in order to reach to validate myself. But what if you have a boyfriend who gives you that validation, but then you break up, then you fall really low. Or if you have a job that gives you a lot of external validation, but then you lose your job, what you do, like, you fall very low. And that's why it's so important to build that self-esteem from the inside out, so that you become less dependent on external factors, because external factors, you cannot really control them. I mean, you can give your best in a relationship, but if you and your partner just have different visions for life, or you change, like one person wants to live in Australia, the other person wants to live in Germany, like, some things are out of your control. But what is within your control is how much love you give yourself, and how much you can build up that self-esteem that is independent from external factors. So independent from work or your job or money or relationships or whatever it is. Like, your worth as a person is always the same, and you're worthy and good enough always the same. So it's really important to build that healthy self-esteem, because if not, it can lead to coping, such as what I said with overworking, but also drug use or alcohol, addictions, unhelpful habits, bad relationships, because you think I don't matter anyways, so why would I be in a healthy relationship? And a lot of those things, they happen unconscious so many times. And that's also why it's so important to go to a therapist, because many times we don't even know that we have a low self-esteem. We think, oh, I'm okay, I do my best, but we don't even realize that we are sabotaging our own success when it comes to, for example, relationships or career. And that's why it's so important to figure out how to raise our self-esteem. So why does this unhealthy self-esteem, where does it come from? It can come from a lot of different sources. So for example, I think that according to my research, a lot of that unhealthy self-esteem, it comes from being bullied. Let it be by your parents, you had abusive parents, or friends, or just random classmates in school that were unkind to you. And so because you're a child, as children we're from our nature more like egotistical in a way, or do you say it in English, like we we think, oh, someone is treating me bad, so we think, okay, it has to say something about me, so I'm bad as a child, as a person, instead of saying, okay, the other person has problems, no, or can't communicate, or is rude. We often think, okay, something is wrong with me. So that is, I think, a really, really big part where this low self-esteem comes from, that we have just people. It can also be our siblings, when siblings tell us you're ugly, you look like a whale, or whatever it is, like really unkind words. It can lead to internalization. And then even if we're an adult, for example, like we're 25 or 45 years old, and we have maybe a really great body, we still feel ugly, or we have maybe a degree or a master or whatever, or we have a lot of success, but we still feel stupid because back then when we were in school, you maybe made a comment and then people said to you that you were stupid, even though it made no sense. So, and that's kind of like where those things can come from, but that's just my research, and probably can also come from different things. It can also come from just different life situations. So for example, if you just went through a divorce, or or through another difficult trauma situation, it can also really affect your self-esteem. And yeah, so now the big question, how can we improve our self-esteem? I think for me that the major big thing is to surround yourself with positive people. So if you have someone in your life, let it be a parent, a sibling, a friend, a husband, a wife, a teacher, or teacher not, but who knows, maybe a teacher or like boss, whatever it is, who is bullying you or is unkind to you, who is talking down to you, who's mentally abusing you, who's really not kind to you, it's really important to get distance from that person. So either by saying, hey, you cannot treat me like that, if that continues I will cut the contact, or to break up, whatever it is. And I think that is really the biggest challenge in creating healthy self-esteem, because it is difficult. It's not just taking a bubble bath. It's really like those hardcore decisions that we have to make, to surround ourselves and to love us enough that we can surround ourselves with people who are kind and uplifting and generous and good for us. And I think that's really, really important. And I would highly recommend to get maybe professional help with a therapist who can really help you through that journey. Yeah, so that's for me the major thing, is surround yourself with good people. And I think one major step also to get there is to reframe negative beliefs. So that's also what you do a lot in cognitive behavioral therapy. So if you have a negative belief such as I'm stupid, because that's just what you learned maybe from your parents or from your school, you can write it down, and then you can say, okay, I'm smart because, and then you can write down a lot of different achievements that you have done, so such for example maybe a master's, or just to start your own company, or whatever it is, you can write it down. And so you can, all of those negative beliefs that you have, like for example, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I can't take up space, I'm a failure, I'm not smart enough, I'm ugly, I'm a disappointment, I'm an embarrassment, like all of those negative statements, you can write them down, and then on the other page you can write down why they are not true, and you can give evidence why they are not true. So for example, if like the statement I'm ugly, then you can write down on the other page why you're not ugly. For example, that in media we just have a certain image what we now think as beautiful, but just because you don't fit that particular image right now doesn't mean that it doesn't say anything about you or your worth and things like that. And that can really help to understand that all of those negative beliefs, they're just beliefs, they're false beliefs that just stick in our brain, even though they make no sense anymore. And also maybe you can figure out who gave you that limiting belief. Let it be a parent or a sibling or a friend or maybe a teacher, whatever it is, and you can give it back to that person and you can say, hey, you're just not really, that was not nice, and you have your own problems and you were acting out from your own problems. So you can give back that negative belief to them, and you can step by step. But yeah, it takes a lot, and I would highly recommend therapy to do that process because it's a lot of work. But step by step you can really change your outer reality, because if you start with your mind and you start with those negative beliefs and you reframe them, you can also, it will have an impact on your relationship. So for example, for me, just as an example, I had probably the belief like I'm not good enough, I have to work for love. So I just dated guys that were much older than me, so that I thought, okay, like they're so much better than me because they're so much older than me. So I need to work so much, like I need to get my whole life together so that I'm worthy to be in a relationship with them, even though logically it makes no sense, because just because someone is older than you doesn't make them better than you. It's just they have more experience, maybe more success, but they're also older than you. And so I had to change that limiting belief and say, okay, I don't need to work for love, I don't need to I'm good enough just how I am. And that's when I could be with guys who were maybe on the same level than me, and I didn't have, and that just loved me for who I am. I didn't need to change myself, I didn't need to work for love, it was just given to me. And that's just how an example on how our internal changes will also create external changes. What also can help and what's also important is to be kind to yourself, so to have that self-compassion, to say like, okay, I don't have that limiting belief just because I'm a bad person, but because it was given to me, it was not my fault. And that can help a lot. So for example, if you were bullied by your schoolmates because of your looks, you can say, okay, like those schoolmates, maybe they are just like a little bit stupid, or maybe they were bullied by their parents, so they didn't know any other way, and it's not my fault. And that can help a lot. Also, what can help is to say, like to say no, and to give and hold boundaries. So for example, if someone demands something from you, but you feel like I cannot and I don't want to give that to that person, you can say no, and you can practice that. Because also one sign of low self-esteem is that we don't have identity, we don't have boundaries, and we are kind of this people pleaser. But if we start to set boundaries, and if we start to say no, it can also show that we are taking ourselves seriously and we love ourselves, and we can care for ourselves by setting boundaries. So that's really cool. But also can be really important is to try not to compare ourselves with other people, and or for me that was really important, to reframe the definition of success that I had, reframe also life in general. So before I was thinking, probably also because that's just what I was taught in school, like you have to achieve, you have to compete in a way. And now I realize everyone is on their own journey, and so there is no right or wrong, there is no like maybe, okay, in some ways there is right or wrong, but for example, if someone decides to have children or not, there is no right or wrong. It just really depends on your own character and on your own vision on what you want your life to look like. And if you're a person who quits his job every 2 years because they want to start something new, but they're happy doing that, that is success. And if one person stays their whole life in one career because that makes them happy, that is success. So I had to reframe that also, and that helped me a lot to also improve my self-esteem. Also to let go of perfectionism helped me a lot, and to understand that everyone or most people are struggling at least once in their life. So this is basically the video for today. If you have or if you find yourself in situations that are unhealthy, let it be unhealthy relationships or addiction of any kind, because you feel like those core beliefs such as you're not good enough, you're a terrible person, whatever it is, I would highly recommend therapy to work on those things. For me, it changed a lot, because what you work on in your internal world will reflect also in your external world. So get help, and I hope you have a beautiful day. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel. You can also check out the description box if I offer any type of product or help. And see you in my next video. See you.